In Rambo's world, there's inhuman terror from Savage. He's half man, half machine, with a face only Savage could love, and the terror.
Welcome back to Retro Wednesday at the Titanium Hangar. This is Mike. Today I want to talk to you about the Joxa Argentina variant vehicles that were only released in, I believe these were only released in Argentina, maybe some other areas too, and there's some color variants and stuff here and there. But I'm really happy to have gotten my hands on these because they're really hard to come by. And with that, there's the Swampdog and there's the Storm Bomber. And they're interesting, different vehicles. And when I first started collecting, I actually thought they were kind of like bootleg things. I didn't know that the Swampdog even fit a standard Rambo figure. But I wish I would have known about these sooner. I wish I would have been chasing them down a lot sooner because they would have been a whole lot cheaper and easier to get. But we're going to get into talking about these, and I'm going to kind of discuss why Joxa got their hands on the Rambo stuff, and we'll get into these coming up. So in the late 80s, Coleco was losing steam on the Rambo line, and so Joxa picked it up, and it was very popular in South America, and so they kept making stuff like this Desert Brigada. And the thing about it is that they didn't even actually make all of these. They were trying to make all of these. It wasn't popular enough to sell all of the ones that they made and recolored, but they pretty much re-released everything in the standard Coleco line in standard colors, and then they put all the stuff out in different coloration. And then they started getting sort of aggressive with it and making their own designs and making a few things on their own, and then trying to repurpose some stuff from the Spiral Zone toy line, but that never really came about. But they did incorporate a few pieces to that. But this is also something that I've done a review on, and it's really cool, just kind of recoloring the same stuff, the same molds from Coleco. But this is exciting today to talk about their own molds, their own design, something that they made on their own. All right, so here's the box. Now, I do want to point out, when I collect vintage, I don't go after the package on purpose. The only way to buy something is it boxed, and a lot of times it is. With stuff like this, it's really rare, and only the box examples exist. Then I go after that, but I would really not care to spend an extra $100 or $150 on the item just so that I can have the box to go with it. I don't like having to do that, but I'm not against it or anything, but you have more in storage and all that kind of stuff. And so the only thing really in package I went after on purpose was Star Wars stuff, and I'm kind of done with all that. So yeah, because Star Wars has gone through the roof, so it's not really fun to collect stuff that's gotten that expensive. But here we go. There's the box. So we're going to start with the elusive Swampdog. Right away, I'm going to say that I was actually surprised how big of a vehicle it was, because when you just see stuff in pictures and that's all you ever see, then it's really kind of hard to get an idea of how big it is. But it's a pretty good sized one. Now, it's not like a G.I. Joe whale or anything. It's a one-man hovercraft kind of thing. And I actually think there's probably a different term for it. But it's kind of like a little hovercraft kind of boat with this big old fan on the back to push it along. And then it has a motorcycle kind of piece in the middle. We're going to get into all of that. Now, this is a NECA Rambo figure in there, and I just figured this is a special piece. Let's put a special figure in it. And I don't know if NECA's going to be remaking any of the Rambo stuff, but I do know that Hyatt Toys is making some really expensive 1/12 scale 6-inch figures. That would probably work too. So anyway, looking at it, mine's in kind of rough shape. Stickers are really worn. It's not in the best shape in the world, and yeah, for the price I paid, probably wished it would have been better on the stickers front. But I'm just happy to have one. So a couple of things about this. First of all, you do have the tan color, so it does kind of feel like it's along the lines of the Desert Brigade or Desert Brigada kind of coloration to it. So it does fit in with that line relatively well. And then this stripe along the side says Swampdog on it, and then it is a boat. I don't know if it floats or not. I doubt it, because it does have some cutouts in the bottom for wheels for it to roll. Even though it doesn't roll well, it does roll. It does have some wheels on it. And then we're going to get into all of the features. I'm not doing lightning round features like I usually do in reviews, because there's not very many features to this, and because I'm not going to with two in the same review. You have this directional kind of the fan air directional on the back, which is got some Rambo stuff on it and all of that, and then the fans right here. So yeah, it's interesting looking. It's different, one man kind of deal. It is not like there's a tank that's out there that has like a molded in Rambo top, like it's a torso, kind of a miniature bust, and there's a tank. And I thought this was in the same vein, but it's not. It's its own thing. So let's go ahead and get into all the features. First feature is when you push this, it drops these bombs. And the interesting thing is that it does it on both sides. These bombs almost look like the ones that are included with kind of like the A-Team stuff. There's like an A-Team adventure set, play set kind of thing, but they're rounded on the edges instead of, they're kind of rounded off instead of a sharp edge right here. It's rounded off. So that's one of the bigger differences in those. So they're special. I think this is the only thing that these are made for. So if you lose those, then there's no replacements really, because something like this, no replacements. Did I get that on there, or they popped out? So you just put them back in. So kind of interesting how they set it up to where you really should only have one coming out at a time, and you should only put 2 in on each side. It comes with a total of 4. So there's that. Now the next feature is the fan. So it does have this fan right here, and now you have to manually flip the switch, and that makes the fan go, which is okay. I guess you could be pushing it along and making it look like the fan's making it move a little bit or something along those lines. But it would be kind of fun if it was maybe one of those like motorized where you pull a string on it or something, so it has a little bit of continual movement as you're kind of playing it along. But it's still kind of cool that they have a mechanism, and the mechanism still works all these years later. So I'll give it to Jocsa for their own design and making their own Swampdog here that still works today. And so with that, we'll see that the other mechanism in the Storm Bomber still works. But then again, I kind of think that stuff that's had the box was a little more well cared for than some of the other stuff that doesn't have a box and all that kind of stuff. But then again, you look at the stickers and you think, well, no, this might have had a pretty rough life too. Now for the ultimate party trick here, and the ultimate party trick is pulling up this ramp, and it's going to reveal the motorcycle piece that comes out. And it's more of a trike. It's not like a motorcycle. So this in here, there's not a whole lot going on in there. Just a compartment to store this motorcycle or tricycle or something along those lines. So this itself is its own little vehicle, and he can just roll around. It rolls really well. Rolls way better than the Swampdog does. And he does come with a machine gun, which has an adjustable handle, so you can get the handle in there just right for the figure. And it comes with some stickers, like a little control panel right there, and some stuff going on. Danger, danger, Will Robinson. And so yeah, it works really well. Let's go ahead and see what it looks like from the back. There's got a giant engine on it, so it's just it's very simplistic, but it gets the job done, and it's kind of fun to have a land vehicle and a water vehicle at the same time. But we can also take a look at what it's going to look like with an actual let's see here. I don't have a Joxa Rambo for it, so we're just going to put a Coleco Rambo in here. And so here is Coleco Rambo in here. And so one thing, first I want to point out that the Coleco Rambo doesn't quite sit as well as the NECA one, which is another one I kind of like having the NECA one in there. We can kind of move some stuff around maybe to get them in there a little bit better. So that's a downer. But then let's go ahead and try to put him back in and see how well it closes up with him in there. Lift the gun up out of the way to close it up. So there's a few things in this. Yeah, he actually fits in. It fits in a little bit better. This closes better because of the way the feet are designed in this. So yeah, he looks good in there. Doesn't mean I'm not going to display my NECA in there, but yeah, he fits in there a little bit better. Next up, we're going to look at the Storm Bomber, or the Disco Lanza Bombas. And so you may have to look up Disco Lanza Bombas to find this, because that's actually, I think, how I found some in the past. But with that, it is kind of interesting. First, you're going to notice a couple things. The one reason about showing the packaging here is that this is red on the packaging. This whole kind of fan blade thing here is red, but it's yellow on the actual one that I have. And so that's one thing to notice, that it's different. And I actually think that it's not just, oh, well, that's the prototype color, because that's what a lot of people say. Well, that's the prototype, Mike. But I see that there are different color variations of this thing. It's already rare. It's already in low production, and there's variation colors on it, which is kind of crazy. But I've seen some variation colors on the tips of the bombs. But let's get and take a look at the actual item. So here's the Storm Bomber. Now I do have Dr. Hyde on it. Is that Dr. Hyde? And he is missing his helmet and all that kind of stuff to make him look more like the actual Joxa version, which has a clear helmet over it instead of the light up gimmick. So that's the difference between the Joxa version and the US release. One of the differences. There's probably a lot more differences. So with this itself, it's an interesting type of a toy. It does feel a bit cheaply made, to tell you the truth, and I really feel like mine is absolutely brand new, unused, no stickers applied, and all of that. So with all of that, it's I'm getting to feel this as a brand new one, and it does still feel pretty cheap, very cheaply made. Interesting ideas that they put behind this, though. So I do kind of feel like this is the tail end of the Skywolf, although it isn't exactly the same. I feel it's inspired by the tail end of the Skywolf. That is something that Coleco had made. It's one just for the Rambo line too, by the way. So this, looking at it, it's just kind of a cheap little kind of hover type of vehicle, and we're going to see all of the features in it. But yeah, looking at it, I don't know if this would have gone over well in the US, or if kids would have loved this thing back in the day. It would have been one of their favorites from the toy line, or if it's something that would have just been like Justice Jogger, and nobody liked it back then, but collectors go after it today because they didn't make very many because nobody wanted it. So I think it might have been more like Justice Jogger, but now I'm glad to have one. I'm not gonna lie, I'm glad to have one, but I don't think it's the greatest vehicle ever made. First feature is you're going to push this and spin the yellow fan. And that sounds really annoying. I'm sorry about that. Second feature is you manually turn this fan. It's like a directional fan, which makes a whole lot of sense. I mean, thinking about it, a gyro, kind of like a little gyrocopter kind of thing, but with the fan. But anyhow, that's the first feature. Now the second feature, and we're going to show this, is the bombing feature. Now they come with these caps, and here's the funny thing. I've seen these caps with the yellow, I've seen them with the gray, and I don't ever see caps looking just like this, generic. I don't know if they made them exactly for this. They might have made them just for this, or maybe this type of cap was popular, and I just never used them back in the day. But you can see the gunpowder in there and all that kind of stuff, still sealed. So what do you do with that? Well, you open this up and you see this piece right here. You put the cap on the end of this, and then you close this back up. Then you put this in here, and then you drop it probably as high as you can. And then when you drop it, it sets the cap off. But you probably need to drop it from a higher distance, and it needs to get a little bit of motion before it's going to pop that cap. So I could see these bombs getting just destroyed, and absolutely destroyed. Also, I do see, like, the last one of this set that sold had yellow tips on these missiles. So I checked eBay to see, hey, how many of these have sold lately. Usually to break my heart and see that they sold cheaper than I had to pay for this one. But yeah, it's yellow tips on some variants. I wouldn't mind getting my hands on a spare set of those, but I really think the only way to track one down is to buy another whole set, and they're not cheap, so I don't really want to do that. Anyhow, they also have these machine guns right here that are you can move them around, and that's kind of cool. But yeah, there's not many features to this. There is not much to this. It's a very simplistic toy, but I'll show you one more thing. In my collecting of this, I actually found these. It's just the gunner station. It has the stickers applied to it. And I thought about swapping the parts, and I thought, no, I want to keep that one brand new. And this is a used, beat up, played with machine gunner set. And in my mind, when I found this, I thought, well, that's probably the only part of this I'm ever going to track down in my whole life. So I'll just be happy to have it. But I'm still happy to have it, but it's kind of cool to have this little extra gunner station to kind of go along with it. Joxa figures. I don't think the Joxa figures are made with the same quality. As you can see, they kind of break down with the colors, and they just do not hold up as well as the Coleco ones. But they use the same exact molds, just the plastic, the dye, and all of that just wasn't up to par versus Coleco, and they were trying to hit a much lower price point. So I mean, I kind of understand that, but I'm just glad this stuff still survived as well as it did all these years later. So this is my look at the Joxa Argentina variant release vehicles and the Swampdog, the Storm Bomber. And I gotta say that I'm glad to have them. They are not great vehicles or fun toys. They're fun display pieces. It's fun to have these items in your display. I don't think they're worth anywhere near the price that people charge for them due to the rarity of them. The price is based on the rarity, but it's still kind of fun to have them in the collection. I'm making this video because most people don't have this in their collection. A lot of collectors don't even know they exist, and so it'd be kind of fun just to get the word out that they exist, and it's kind of fun to have them around. But let me know what you think about these. Did you get any of the Coleco Rambo stuff from back in the day? Did you know these existed? Do you collect any of the Joxa Desert Brigade recolor stuff, Brigada recolor stuff? Let me know in the comments below. Like and subscribe to Deer Hanger out.
It's Savage, the secret army of vengeance and global evil. Today, Savage and its diabolical leader, General Warhawk, threaten the freedom of everyone as General Warhawk doesn't fight fair, and he doesn't fight alone. Second in command is Sergeant Hammock. Ripper, a ruthless mercenary. He rewrote the book on combat, but if freedom and justice are to survive, the only hope is with Rambo and the Force of Freedom.